the Tana Takalun Shim Gamliel needs a place for the house. Let's continue. Ein Cholkin Sachotzer, Achia Arba Amas Lezeh, Arba Amas Lezeh. We already learned this also in the beginning of the Masechta that you have to have Rav Asin name. Rav Yochanan said that's our Mishnah talking about. There's not a din chalukah here. We're talking about that this is the Mishnah. You can't split up a chotzer until there's enough room for Dalat Amas. V'loyes asad achiva tisha kamal lezeh. V'tisha kamal lezeh. It's around 37 plus square, 3,700, 3,750 square amas. That's enough for the growth. The point is very simple. When you split it, it has to be enough that it makes sense. The yield is going to make sense. Rabbi Yehuda, it's good enough. We're going to see the Gemara if it's a machlekes. He splits it in half. Gina, which produces much more. It's good enough, even a half a kav, because the Gina, the yield is much higher. Even a quarter of a kav. Rashi says there are a bunch of rooms, whether it's conference rooms, salons, whatever they are. Not a shoivach, a chicken coop, velois a talis or talis, velois a merchatz, a bathhouse, velois beis abad, an olive press, velois beis al shalchim, where the irrigation field. Ashiyah again, kadei lezeh. The point is very simple. Zaklal. Kol sheichalik v'shmoi olav cholkin. If there's enough that we can split a talis and still we both can wear a talis, we split it. If you take a regular person talis, you split it up. There's no room for any of us to have it. Now we're finishing up the Mishnah Amosai. Bisman she'ein shneim reitzim, mashan shneim reitzim afilu pachas mikan. We split it. What's the chiddush? There's no chiddush. I can do whatever I want. The chiddush, we saw this in the Gemara earlier, to tell you kisvek chiddush. After b'shneim reitzim, even if they both want to, like we said, it's a bizayin for the nach to split it. After b'kin le'achloik, even if they both want it. Let's run into the Gemara. The Pesach, you need to get another Dalat Amas. Even though the Mishnah says the chotzer that comes out, you have a beautiful house, a multifamily, one guy on the right, one guy on the left. Chotzer in the front. We're saying 8 amas. It has to be really 16. Needs another 4 amas for the entrance by multifamily house A, and the house B needs to have another Dalat Amas. So it comes at 16. Tani nami achin cholkin is the chotzer ashiva shmoin amas. How can I say 8? Shmoin amas lezeh, but not tanan arba amas lezeh arba amas lezeh. El shmamina kadar basi shmamina. Some learn it as a kasha. V'ikadar ramalu mirma tanan. Our Mishnah says in cholkin is the chotzer ashiva arba amas lezeh arba amas lezeh. But Tani we have a brayso that says shmoin amas lezeh shmoin amas lezeh. Okay, we're going to go a little weiter. We're talking about a very specific scenario that a person gave over Zerushal Piv. He didn't write it down. One house, he said, this house A is going to my son Reuven. That house had more than one Pesach. House B only had one Pesach, and that's it. So the halach is, what does we do with the chotzer? Do you say the chotzer, the father had intent also to give, just like this house is 2 psachim, you divide the chotzer just like the house. So you get 2/3 of the chotzer. Amar Rav Huna, chotzer mischalakas lefi psachah, comes out that the son will get 2/3. Of Chesed Amar, no, nice and arba amos. Only Dalat Amas chol pesach v'sachsach. V'ashar chol k'meshava. Tiny kavos of Chesed, we have a right to this. Psachim shem chotzer yishlan arba amos lezeh. What happens in scenario? Another scenario. Hayl is a pesach echad. Lezeh zeh shnei psachim. The other guy has 2 doors, entrance ways. Zeh sheyesh lo pesach echad noitel arba amos. Zeh sheyesh loy. Shnei psachim, noitel shmona amas, v'ashar, cholkim b'shava, and nela kivuna. Hoy lezeh pesach, rochav shmona amas, noitel shmona amas, keneged a pesach, v'arba amas, b'chotzer, ad kan. It means to say is, in a chanam, if your wide is 8, you can only get 8x4. Don't think you get 8x8 suddenly. You're always going to get the 4 by the length, even if it's wide 8. Who's talking about this? Says noitel shmona amas ba'oirech hachotzer v'arba amas b'reichev. You're not going to get 8x8, rather 8x4. You only get Dalat Amas in front. High pair the sufli. Guy has a chotzer. In the chotzer, there's a pit. They put all the dates to feed the animals. Now, we're talking about a scenario where there's no Pesach. The father died and he left over the pit to one of the sons. The halacha is, Rashi learns, not that he gets the pit. He has all around the pit, he gets the schos of arba amas. V'loya maron ella delay misyachale pischa. Avam yachale pischa when you're alpha the bays ein leila arba amas lifnei pischa. Then he only gets about the Dalat Amas. Amar Rav Huna achsadra, which is a pavilion. The Perish Chai explains it very well. It's just a little, it's almost like a chuppah today when they do outside chuppahs. The halacha is in front of the house, ein la Dalat Amas. And the reason is, time of mine, mishum perk masai. The only reason why you get Dalat Amas is to unload the animals. Hacha efshad ayla gavai mafarik. You can walk right in, there's no problem. There's no real walls or windows and no one keeps furniture there. Again, another important thing is you really can walk into any house and unload. The cheshbon is, there's stuff there. So therefore you can't walk in. I'm going to see it throughout the Gemara right now. Meisar v'asheish is echad shari batim. It says v'echad shar chsadrus. Yeshlan Dalat Amas. You clearly see that a chsadra does get a pavilion, does get Dalat Amas. Remember the more kitani ibe chsadra de beirav. A chsadra de beirav, we see it more now in the city with COVID that they started doing outside eating. it's like a little house with very large windows, a little booth with very large windows. And the Gemara is saying that in such a scenario, in such a pavilion, there's furniture there, and everything's there, you can't unload there. In fact, the Gemara pshita in such a case. It's pasha to us that it's considered a regular room. In fact, the Gemara pshita, join him it's a regular room. The Roman pavilions were a little different. All they had was little walls. There was no large windows. You can look in Perish Chai, it's very clear that, I think I actually brought it. Someone already took it. Okay, the Perish Chai is very masbid over there. The Roman pavilion is talking about where there's just a little wall on the bottom. There, the chiddush is you would have thought that there's no furniture there, and therefore you do not have a right for Perk Masai. Kamash Malon. Here's Achshadra B'ei Rav. This is what we do on the outside, and this is Achshadra Rumaisa. Half walls, very little walls on the bottom. So the chiddush is that no, Alpha Pekin, you can't do Perk Masai. Frak the Gemara, Zok the Gemara, Tanabana, Beishar, Achshadra means like the Romans, like we just said. Marpesas, Nation and Dal Ramas. Hayu Chamisha Batim Suchel Marpesas. The halacha is when you have 5 houses. I'm picturing today, they also have Perish Chai, it's like a motel, that the second story, there's a nice metal staircase that goes up to the second story, and there's a bunch of units. However, to get up there, they all use the same staircase. The halacha is you only get Dalet Amis and no more. They all have to split that Dalet Amis. Ein lahem el Dalet Amis bevad. What's the halacha lusha tenagolam chicken coop? Do we say yeshal Dalet Amis? Ein la Dalet Amis. I'm gonna lay time in mind. The only reason why we're gonna give it Dalet Amis is mishum Perk Masai. Hacha mitafas oil mitafas yer. Chicken coop goes in by itself. There's no need for Perk Masai. You take the chicken and it jumps right in. What is the halacha? Bayis chetziv mikayra. The chetziv ain't a mikayra. You have a house that the roof is only half the roof. So yeshal Dalet Amis, ein la Dalet Amis. Amalei doesn't have ein la Dalet Amis. And he says loy mivay krim lagav, which is immediately it's uncovered, so it's not a big deal to bring in the animals and unload. Which talks about that the roof, and as soon as you walk in this roof, and only later on it's uncovered. Even then, you have to say, excuse me, you literally take your horse going through the furniture, and you go to the back and you unload over there. It means to say is where a person has a driveway, a mavoi, and there's a bunch of houses, and that's where he would always go out. That was his entrance. He wants to close up the entrance and use his back through the mavoi B. Because mavoi B starts saying, I don't want you to come in through our entrance because now there's a lot more traffic. Amalei b'nei mavoi B, makron Achsanya. The halacha is when soldiers would come, they would take space, they would take a room. Do we say adam ischalekas or flip sachem ischalekas? How much space do they need to take? Adam ischalekas. That's how much you have to give. Tanya me'achi zev shebechatzim ischalekas flip sachem. The Raya says achsanya, however, lifnei bnei adam. Amar Rav Huna echem bnei mavah shebikish listoim keneged pitzcha. He wants to make an enclosure around this Dalet Amis that he gets. Bnei mavah makvan alav shemarbel and saderech, that they have to go around it. For the Mar Meisrei, we find Brisa says chomish chatzeres psuchis lamavi. The halacha is, picture it, you have an entranceway and there's 5 mavis, and it's a dead end. So the guy who lives all the way deep down is only going one way. The halacha is the people in front of them can go up towards the dead end. They all can use the last one by the entrance. Nimtzis comes at the guy on the top of the dead end. You clearly see that what? That everyone has a schos as long as you're going through to the mavoi. So, sorry, the other way around. Everyone has a schos in their mavoi, and not only that, you should have a schos to do enclosure. The guys that closer to the entrance can go up towards the dead end. We said but it says it was one time open, then they closed it. He wants to reopen it. Then Rav Shimon it doesn't say Amar Rav Shimon. It says Rav Shimon answers to him. What is he even talking about? So this I read it. Rav Shimon was answering back to Rebbe. Rebbe says the you clearly see the Rebbe, there's a machlokes if they all have a schos and not in the schos to use the mavi or not. According to Rav Shimon, they all have a schos, and therefore you have no right to put on a full enclosure. We're going to stop it for today. Yetz Hashem, next week we're going to start from the bottom of Yud Aleph on the base. Amar.
Beautiful.
I think it shows that he stopped after 12 months, not that he pulled.
Stopped after 12 months, he got healed. No, he lost the
stopped after 12 months.
That's why?
I think that they told him that as long as they give it to Tzedakah, he's not gonna be punished, and he stopped after 12 months. So once he stopped after 12 months,
It's the Gemara just says after 12 months. I guess because he stopped. How do you turn this off?